How advanced are efforts in Kenya and in East Africa, if you can, for national health insurance schemes?
A few ideas have been mooted by the various bodies in Kenya. The Ministry of Health, or the Ministry of Medical Services, have mooted an idea of converting what we call the National Health Insurance Fund to a National Health Insurance Scheme, a universal health scheme. But the politics surrounding it are not very clear. And I think it transverses across Tanzania and Uganda too. It's the same situation.
I mean, obviously the politics, for instance, are reflected in how organizations like the Kenyan Teachers Union have responded, saying that it is not feasible purely because they can't afford it. Per month, the Kenyan teachers would need to contribute about 300 million Kenyan shillings in order to make some sort of a national health insurance fund work properly. What do you make of concerns around costing and expense?
On that particular scheme, I think they could afford it, because they are being given a medical allowance. And I think it's that essence that they don't want to let go as part of their salary. They feel that the employer should actually pay 100% for it.
So in a situation like that, where there's wrangling on affordability and sustainability, how does a company like Resolution Health go about doing your business?
Right. As you correctly said, in East Africa, only 4% of the population have health insurance. In Kenya, it's 2.38%. Now, for us, the market is big because we target the middle class, people who can easily spend $350 annually for health insurance, and the market is huge. Marketing is actually not the challenge. Managing the medical portfolio is a challenge.
Okay, let's talk about the innovations that are needed. I mean, recently, for instance, we know that the National Health Insurance Fund, together with the local insurer, targeted specifically a niche product for the Kenyan Women's Finance Trust. So just 100,000 households, but basically affordable healthcare at about 10 shillings a day. How are things like that working, those kinds of innovations?
A lot of education is required, but coming back to microinsurance, because that's typically microinsurance, it's going to work because it's targeted at a group of people who have shared needs. Kenya Women Finance Trust have members, and they can be able to target those members. And because they handle their financing, they can be able to tell them, you must take this particular product. But if you go bottom of the pyramid in Kenya, the first thing you have to do is invest in education. And as business people, we can't do that. It's the work of the government to do that.
I mean, obviously then, what's the public's response to things like private healthcare in a situation where people are calling for government to subsidize healthcare? You know, we look at recent statistics which say that the uptake for life insurance is quite high, but short-term insurance doesn't really do well in Kenya.
As I say, level of education, and the population is not well, fiduciary training is not that good. And a lot of people see health insurance as a luxury. They see it as for the rich. And whereas on the other side, they are being hit by high medical bills. So we as an association, we as a company and an association, Medical Insurance Providers Association of Kenya, have embarked on an education process where we are doing roadshows and going around the country educating people on the need of having private health insurance, because it's not possible for the government to provide healthcare for all.
How feasible and how profitable are your efforts in the long term? Because one of the biggest limitations is the high unemployment rate in Kenya, somewhere at about 40%, and youth figures for unemployment are even higher than that. For anybody to take private healthcare, they have to be employed effectively.
That's correct. That's correct. But we exist in a market where even that 1.9 million employed don't have health insurance. So there's still a market for that. And we believe that we can partner with the government. For example, if NHIF, the National Health Insurance Fund, could concentrate on the indigent, the people who really can't afford to buy health insurance, and leave the private health sector to develop products for the middle sector, then we can be able to work together. What the government has to do, though, is refurbish the public delivery infrastructure so that hospitals have drugs, have doctors, and they're good enough for the local person to go to avoid them going to the private sector. Then we can spread the access. Once we spread the access, then health insurance is definitely going to germinate.
I mean, obviously, Kenya is quite unique in the sense that a lot of finance products work on a cooperative basis, because especially in the farming economy, that's where you see that level of coordinated activity. Should you, as Resolution Health, think about some of those innovations by way of how you approach and target the market? Maybe not go to individuals, but work on a cooperative basis, and in that way get the support of banks that do banking in that way, like Equity Bank, for instance.
We have a challenge in there of regulation. Bank assurance, which is the way around in the West insurance products are distributed, is not well regulated in this market. And we are waiting anxiously for an amendment to the Insurance Act that allows us to partner with other distributors. Because currently, for you to distribute an insurance product, you must be a trained insurer and must have a license to do that.